this is a perfect example of how deep the indoctrination goes. If a white person had made this comment, I most likely would have just ignored it and went on about my business, because I know that person is not the audience that I'm speaking to anyway, so why give them any of my energy? But this young black lady is demonstrating how deep the indoctrination is, how much fear is a part of this process, and how they have to go through the mental gymnastics in order for them to still hold on to the religion that was given to them by their oppressors. Now, I know the Olympics are this summer, but let's not start the mental gymnastics this early. Because what she is saying is that God gave man the free will to choose right or wrong. So you're going to blame God for its slavery. You're going to blame God for the disrespect towards women. You're going to blame God for all these atrocities, the genocide that man has committed. Instead of, and you're going to blame God instead of blaming the demonic men who did it. See, this shows that you're fearful. This shows that how the church has convinced you, the black church has convinced you, that those people just weren't real Christians. They didn't understand the Bible, and so on and so forth. And you can still hold on to this book because it's about love and all these sorts of flim-flammery things. But when you actually look at it, young lady, if you actually have read this book, what you're either indicating to me that you've never read the Bible or you didn't understand what you was reading. But it was very plain and very clear in Leviticus 25 when it says that of the foreigners who live amongst you and the foreigner and other foreigners, you may buy slaves as your property and pass them down to your sons as your property, that they can inherit them. You see, when they try to talk about having slaves and then at the year of Jubilee they have to be released, they're only talking about intertribal slavery, meaning that if you are enslaving another Hebrew, another Israelite, a person of your tribe, every 7 years you're supposed to let them go, set them free, year of Jubilee. But of the foreigners, you can keep them in perpetuity because they're your property. Now the Europeans, as well as Africans and Chinese and Japanese and everybody else, pretty much had that same principality in their mind, that same principle in their mind, where when the Irish or the Scottish came over as indentured servants, after 7 years they were set free because they was of like tribe. But of the Africans, of the indigenous Americans, the Asians, no, that's perpetual slavery. There is no out unless you have a good master who allows you to buy your freedom. But that's not every 7 years. That could be after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. So you're confusing morality today with what your Bible actually says. Your Bible literally says in Deuteronomy that if a young maiden who has not been betrothed to a man is raped by a man and is caught, then if the rapist pays the father 50 pieces of silver, the bride's wages, then the daughter has to marry the son, marry her rapist, provide children for him. He can never divorce her, and he still has to perform his husbandly duties towards her, meaning give her children, meaning get her some ping again. That's just what your Bible says. Your Bible tells you in Deuteronomy and Leviticus and Numbers and so many other places, go and kill all the men, all the women, kill all the young ones, the babies, utterly destroy them, kill all the animals, burn down the town. God told them to go do this. So when they commit genocide in the name of this book, whether it's the Crusades, whether it's Rwanda, whether it's Manifest Destiny, they are doing it because the Bible has taught them and showed them that that is the right way to be, the right thing to do. Young lady, you actually need to just read this book without already having a predetermined landing spot that you're going to be in favor of this book no matter what you discover. Because you can always find wiggle room if you want to. But your Jesus didn't free slavery. He said, whether slave, whether free man, whether bond man, whether male or female, you're the children of God. Right? So basically he's saying you can still be a slave. You don't have to have freedom. Be a slave, but know that you're a child of God. You can be born a free man, but be a child of God. You can be born a man, you can be born a woman, but you're still a child of God. He never said slavery is wrong. No man should own another slave. That selling your daughters off for bride prices is wrong. That women have the agency to be able to choose who they desire to marry and who they do not want to marry. It is not something based on the father or the oldest son. But it is up to each individual woman to decide who she wants to marry. And she certainly should never have to marry her rapist. He never said that. He never changed that. He left those things be as they are, as well as many other atrocities. He let them be as they are. He said, love your enemies. But even your God in Deuteronomy 10, or in Deuteronomy 9, he said that he will utterly destroy the Ammonites. But then turns around in Deuteronomy 10 and said, love your neighbors, love the strangers. He has dual mind, dual mindset. This God also tells you in the New Testament, whatever government you're born under is the government that God desired for you to be born under. So whoever is your president, whoever is your prime minister, your governor, your mayor, that they're in that space because of God, this God. So Hitler was placed by God. Stalin, placed by God. Mussolini, placed by God. Idi Amin, placed by God. Trump, placed by God. Biden, placed by God. Because according to your book, that's what it teaches. And that you should pray for your leaders. It tells you to do those things. Did you pray for Trump? Do you pray for Biden? Because you're supposed to pray for both of them. It tells you to abide by the laws of the land to which you are born under. So you're supposed to obey the laws whether they are for you or against you. You are to obey those laws. That's what your Bible tells you. It doesn't tell you to go against the government. It doesn't tell you that you should reform the government. It tells you that you stand in place and follow those rules. So young lady, I implore you, go and read your book. Read it, study it, dig deep into it. I guarantee that if you do that for a year with an open mind, not having a predetermined landing spot, that you will change this mentality and change this state of being. Because you got to free yourself to be yourself. Because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.